Hello, 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 Johnny. Can you hear me?
Oz, yeah, loud and clear. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing just well. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the MAFA report. I wanted to start just by giving you guys just a little bit of what I'm planning to do. Recently I had a really long talk with my wife. I've been in the marijuana industry for a little bit, kind of doing some investments and took on a position with one of the places that I've invested with, and it wasn't my thing. And I was having a conversation with her, and I said, I'm just not happy. And she told me, well, you're always happy when you're on Spaces or when you're doing something in with X. You're making money off of it now. Why don't you just do it full time? So I've decided to dedicate myself to this full time. And part of dedicating myself to this is doing a show every day from 12 to 1:30. And basically what this show is going to be about is it's going to be about America First policy. It's going to be about the southern border. It's going to be about the health crisis. It's going to be about globalism. It's going to be about forever wars. And one of the reasons why I changed my title from Maha, Make America Healthy Again, to Make America First Again, was that I believe that you can't MAGA and you can't Maha without MAFA, right? You can't do it without making America first again. And what I'm seeing, especially from the Democratic side, is this push towards making America last. You saw FEMA, we're out of funds. Why are we out of funds? Because we gave them to illegal immigrants. We're reimbursing democratic cities like New York and Chicago and all these places that are putting up migrants into hotels instead of taking care of our own people. So when Hurricane Helene hit, we had no money to give to these people. In fact, all you hear is stories about FEMA telling American citizens that just want to help, if you come here, we will arrest you. If you come into our no-fly zones, we will arrest you. That's not America. That's not the America I grew up in. When I was growing up, if a person wanted to help somebody, especially an area that was devastated by a natural disaster, the American government was more than happy to have those people come in. That was part of being an American, right? You helped your fellow man. We were about charity. Well, nowadays, if you want to be about charity or if you actually want to do something that's going to help your fellow man, the Democratic administration threatens to put you in jail. And to me, there's a huge problem in this country. I think that we're losing our identity. I think we're losing who we are as a people. And we're being told that if you believe in nationalism or non-interventionism or even isolationism, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're something evil. And that's not true. America has a long, proud history of non-interventionism, has a long, proud history of isolationism, has a long, proud history of putting itself before any other nation. It wasn't until the 1940s, early 1940s, under FDR, that the kind of shift started to happen. And we started focusing more on globalism and how we could start to help the world versus how could we make America more self sufficient. So I'm hoping that with this show, we can talk about how we're going to make America more self sufficient again, that we can dissuade people that being nationalist or being isolationist or being non-interventionist is not a dirty word. My shows, you are more than welcome to come up. I like to have speakers, so if you feel like you want to come and you want to have a discussion and you want your voice heard, I want to hear your voice too. Right now, I want to talk about the border. We have a serious crisis going on. We have 20 million people that have crossed the border within 3 years and 5 months of the Biden administration. And who's in charge of the border? Kamala Harris. But she doesn't take responsibility for it. She ignores the fact that millions of people are running through our border, and we don't even know who some of these people are. That's the scary thing. And it made me realize that we didn't know who these people are when Robert Kennedy Jr. went down to the border and he took videos, and we got to see who was coming uh, over to the border. We saw Asians, we saw Africans, we saw very few Hispanics. By the way, we saw very few Hispanics. These were military-aged individuals coming from China, coming from Indochina, and coming from the Middle East and Africa, and that is concerning. It should concern every single person in this room because right now, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are actively working to make this country unsafe. We have numerous amounts of individuals who have been murdered at the hands of illegals, and I'm going to call them illegals because that's what they are. If that hurts you, or if that butt hurts you in any kind of way, well, that's just too bad. You don't have to be here. But that's who these people are. They are not here legally. They were not invited. They were not asked to come here. They came here, broke the law, and they are illegal. And we're going to call them as such. I see that Last Dragon wants to say something. Go ahead, my friend.
Oh yeah, thanks for letting me speak, Bruce. I agree with everything you're saying, but what really grinds my gears is I don't know that much about everything. I just started getting into this like maybe like a year ago or so, and I just listen to everything you guys say, and I just hear things. But what I heard is that Kamala just sent 128 more million dollars to what Lebanon, right? Am I
Yeah, to the
wrong?
Lebanon border, to the
So
Lebanese
where the
border.
hell
Yeah.
where the hell did that money come? Where the hell did that money come from? And why are we using that to help our victims? Like you're right, Kamala and them. And I understand. Like I think Democrats just hate America. I don't understand why. Like they're everything they do is un-American. They want to destroy us. Um, and it's just I don't really understand what's going on. How we don't have money. FEMA has no money. Where's all the money going? And why aren't we helping? We should be helping, number one, America first. We should be helping those hurricane victims. That place should have been rebuilt within weeks. And it's all political. That's all they're doing is making it political. And it shouldn't be political. You're American. Who cares if you're Democrat, if you're whatever, if whatever your viewpoints are, you're an American and you deserve help for America instead of we're just giving everything to everyone else. And it's just really just, I'm sorry for my language, it's pissing me off, man. And I think that and you're right. Every time you say something to a lefty, believe me, I do it all the time. I'm automatically a racist. I'm automatically a mega bot, you know. Um, but that's fine. They can say what they want because they're all full of shit. And I don't know. I'll land my plane there, but it's just really bothering me. And it is treasonous what they're doing at the border right now. It's been like that. And every time you ask for an opinion from them, they just deflect. That's all they do is deflect, and they will not answer your questions. I'll land there.
And that's because they can't answer our questions. They have no ability to do that. To me, all it seems is that the Democrats can do is talk in hyperbole and insult you. And that's not how you get your message through. And as far as Kamala Harris's message, I heard her message loud and clear. America is last. My priorities are everybody else but this nation. And I heard that to the people of North Carolina. I heard that to the people of Tennessee. I heard that for the people of Georgia. And it's over and over again. What we hear is, you guys are not my concern. You guys are not the people that I am worried about. I am always going to put another nation before you. Like, why are we sending $185 billion to Ukraine? Why are we spending $35 billion on the Taliban? What the fuck is that about? Last time I checked, the Taliban were terrorists. They don't need $35 billion, especially my taxpayer money. That is just absolutely asinine. And one of the scariest things, and this is the thing I think that bothers me the most, is that we have children, American children, that are being stolen. We have American children that are being trafficked by these illegals coming over our border. And that should piss off every single American in this country. That should be the first thing that we're doing is, where are these 300,000 kids that just magically disappeared? Where did they go and why are they gone? Why are so many children missing and are not accounted for? And the problem is that since Joe Biden took over as president, the amount of children in this country that are homeless has gone through the roof. We are dealing with record homelessness of children and veterans. And you know what? When you're dealing with that, you don't have any way of tracking these kids. These kids basically then become invisible to the American government. And their parents, a lot of them are suffering from drug addiction. They don't aren't really paying attention to their kids either. So when somebody steals them, and I just read about this the other day. Somebody took a child, and because the parents were just so dysfunctional, had mental disabilities, had serious issues when it came to drug addiction, they didn't report or even realize that their child was missing for 1 year. This is what's going on in Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's America. And this is not the America I want to live in. And I hope this is not the America that you guys want to live in. This is not the America that any of us should be living in. Illegals should not take priority over American citizens. And, I got to sit back and I got to ask, how does the Black community feel about this? Because for me, it's I see the Black community struggling, and I see illegals getting $13,000 a month and being put up in really fancy ass hotels, and even go further, because this is happening in New York City. They're closing down schools in the Black neighborhoods and the minority neighborhoods so that they can put these illegals in there, and they're telling these kids, you have to go to school virtually. Well, guess what? Some of their parents can't afford these kids to go virtually. They can't afford an iPad. They can't afford a computer. So what is going to happen to these kids? Well, these kids are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to go out into the streets, and crime is going to go up. And again, this shows me nonstop that Kamala Harris does not care about America. I see we have Oracle. Go ahead, Oracle, and then we'll have Miss Amorosa after.
Hi, Bryce. Thank you so much. And also, I'm really looking forward to your listening to your news show. And yeah, thank you so much for doing that. And I'm going to go back to the point, but I just want to say really quickly, I was thinking about how in these spaces, I really always appreciate your historical perspective, and I've learned a lot from you. It's really funny. You'll be like, people will hate me. But in 1932, when they passed that one bill, and I'm always like, how does he know that? So anyway, I'm looking forward to your show. And, but yeah, I can't believe what I'm witnessing with my own eyes with what's happening. I am in shock. And, you know, I've been in this space a lot talking about this, but this is the same experience we had up in Northern California. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Agenda 2030 map where, they have these rural no human zones. Have you seen that, Bryce? Have you seen that map?
I have seen that, and it's
Yeah.
disgusting.
So, if you look at what's happening, this is exactly what it looks like. And I was, after the Dixie Fire, they're trying to build these mines, copper mines and different mines up in that area, in these areas where it was completely burned out. And I just want to say that people seem to be grateful now that the military is coming in. But what happened after the fire is once the military came in, they were there with their guns and they didn't let people onto their property. So it's not a good thing. Like people are not going to, they declared a disaster zone and people were literally not allowed back to their property. They just like cleared people out. And so many people never went back, and the community has barely been built back at all. And most of the land is, they've sold the land, they sold all of the resources, they sold all of the trees. They were actually harvesting the trees and sending them down to China, and they would take them out 3 miles out to sea where it was national waters, and then they would process the wood and then bring it right back. And these Chinese companies, anyway, it's just a nightmare. So you know, it's it's astounding to see that we are actually under attack, right? Through the weather modification. It is absolutely undeniable. Anyone can go and look at these weather maps right now. You can see the chemtrails. You can see what's happening with the radiation. You can see what's happening with these with the like exactly where these the army bases are, the these DARPA whatever they're called, the equipments that are set up, and And yeah, it's not America first right now. We're witnessing a globalist attempt to take over America, to completely destroy America, to destroy people that live in these um, rural communities, to come in and just harvest the resources exactly like they're doing in Africa or South America. They don't care now. They're opening the border because they don't believe in borders, because they believe that there shouldn't be borders, because there's a one world government. And they're saying this over and over again, time and time again, that I mean, we just saw the UN future generations gathering. That was their whole thing, world governance. Well, yeah, it's absolutely insulting that there's people that haven't even been rescued. There's people that are out in these remote areas actually dying, that don't have insulin, that are like dying. And then the next day Kamala's like, yeah, we're sending 130 million, $37 million, however much more, to Lebanon now. And why are they doing this? Well, this is, the military industrial complex taking our tax dollars, our actual tax dollars, and just stealing from us and sending it to the one world order. And where this is going to the military industrial complex, who has these agreements around the world to be the army. And it's disgusting and it's horrifying. And I can't believe that Kamala Harris is on podcast talking about abortions while this is happening. It is so horrible. Please, you guys, we have to do everything possible in our power right now to get this administration out of office. I just, whatever you can do, if you can call a friend, if you can call someone you haven't talked to in a while and see where they are, try to, purple pill people, red pill people, because we're actually under attack. Like, it's real. And they've always hidden it. It's always been like hidden. So I'll land my plan there, but I can go on about this forever. But they're just pulling back the veil and they're like, yeah, fuck you. We're taking all of your stuff and you don't mean anything to us. And we're just, yeah. I mean, it's so blatant. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
No, it's obvious. It's obvious to everybody that's looking, apparently, except to Democrats, that this administration cares nothing for its own people. And I mean, we saw it in Maui. I mean, they got $700, and now we're seeing it here. People just absolutely devastated by Hurricane Helene, getting $750. Yet we have money to go to Jordan, we have money to go to Lebanon, we have money to go to the fucking Taliban, which just blows my mind that $35 billion of my taxpayer money went to a terrorist organization that shot, murdered, and raped American people. Like, that just thoroughly pisses me off. But this is the world that we live in, and then they try to gaslight you that America is not a nationalistic country, that America is a global partner in the world. And I call bullshit on that, because I'm a student of history. This is something that I did in college. I can tell you for a fact that from 1780, about 1789 to about 1936, America enjoyed, other than for World War I, but that was Wilson, and Wilson sucked ass. America was an isolationist country, and isolationism in America means something a little different than than global isolationism. American isolationism was this idea: it's like, listen, we'll trade with you, but that's all we're doing, and we're not going to trade with you unless it's advantageous to the American worker and the American industry, because we're going to protect American workers and we're going to protect the American industry. There are no treaties. There are no current trade treaties that protect the American worker. If you actually look at our trade, we are running trade deficits with almost every single country. And the reason why is we want a material that they have, or we want to put a base there. And we're willing to sell out the American worker and the American industrial complex so that we can have a base somewhere in Jordan that we can't even fucking secure. I mean, we have bases in the Middle East right now, and we can't secure them, and we have Americans dying in those areas right now. And I just, to me, that's a slap in the face to the American people. That's a slap in the face to every single person that's serving this nation. And I just got done talking to a friend who's serving overseas right now, and I asked him, I said, "What would you rather be doing? Would you rather we close 90% of our bases overseas and open new bases along our southern and northern border?" And he told me, "Bryce, I would so much rather be protecting our borders than where I am right now. This doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. Like I'm pissed. If you understood how much money we waste, how much money we give to, like, we, so just so you know, we built a wall in Jordan. You know, Democrats like to tell you that walls don't work. We don't build walls. Well, we built a wall on the Jordan border that we monitor for them, and we spend billions of dollars every year to keep this wall going up. But yet, we're not going to do that at our own southern border. We're not going to protect our own borders. To me, that seems asinine. There's something wrong. I'm even doubting whether or not Kamala Harris is actually using cocaine. I'm starting to think maybe she's smoking crack, because this is just so asinine and so out there. No American politician should be voted in on if their message is, "I'm going to send money over to another nation, and I'm going to ignore the plight of my own people." Go ahead, Miss Amorosa.
Thank you, Bryce. Hey, Johnny. I couldn't agree more with all of you. I mean, Oracle was spot on. As a person who lives in San Diego, California, right next to the southern border, it's 150% clear that Kamala Harris could give a shit about the American people. She only cares when it's, an opportunity for her for a press conference. She hasn't cared. She hasn't been on board. She is absolutely a threat, not only to our people, but to the whole, you know, United States of America. She's clear that America comes last, the American people come last. She doesn't care about anything that we stand for or what we believe in. And we should never be ashamed to say we want America first. We should never be ashamed to scream from the rooftops, MAFA, 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 because she's put us in this corner. And, going back to what you said, Bryce, about the Black community, um, I mean, I'm boots on the ground here in San Diego. And I think with all of this happening, I mean, it's so in your face that it has woken up so many people that have, been so loyal to the Democratic Party. Now we're talking about the Democratic Party for what it used to be years and years ago. And they just thought, okay, well, I'll continue voting for the Democratic Party because that's what my parents did. That's what my grandparents did. So it's kind of like a culture thing. But when they've put us in this corner and threatened our very way of life, it has turned people so quickly. I mean, now you can go out to a grocery store I'm I'm the person that likes to think that I'm boots on the ground, and suddenly I'm approached by someone to make sure I'm registered to vote, and there'll be someone from the Black community, and I'm like, right on, man. Yeah, I am registered to vote. I am on board, and I'm doing the same thing you are. Keep doing it. And we just need to encourage everyone now more than ever to not be afraid to say America first, to not say to put our people first, because if we do not take this opportunity now, what is happening at this moment is nothing in comparison to what is to come. And it's not to scare anyone, but it's just the reality, because her priorities, this agenda is not for what the America that we believe in and the America that we want to live in and that we want our children to live in. And it breaks my heart, let me tell you, to to see the homeless people, the homeless veterans, the homeless, teenagers that are out on the streets in San Diego. I mean, it is just heartbreaking. And each and every day, more and more illegals are pouring into our border, and they are just bleeding us out completely. And they're giving all these benefits to them. And yet, I mean, they can't even help people at the border that live near the border. I mean, what makes you think that they're going to help people, in North Carolina? That they really just don't care. They're just looking for an opportunity to get their agenda in place. And that's why I firmly believe that the American people are going to send them home packing, because this is not the America that we believe in. This is not the America that we want our children to live in, and we need to leave a legacy behind. And I know for a fact that no matter which party you came from, you're not on board for this. I mean, most people are for, America first. And if they didn't know it before, they're definitely knowing now. So I'll just land my plane there. And thank you for letting me speak.
Oh, thank you for coming up here and speaking. And I appreciate people sharing their stories and their experiences, especially those of you that are close to the border. We need to tell every single person that it's okay to say America first. It's okay even to use the word isolationism. And I know for a lot of people that's like, oh, I don't want to say that's a bad word. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. What national isolationism means, American isolationism, and that's what we're going to focus on, is that we want America to be self-sufficient. We don't want to have to rely on foreign goods and foreign materials and foreign energy, that America can be self sufficient, that America can build it here, that we can create industry that we protect with tariffs, because tariffs are wonderful. And those that say that tariffs don't work, I ask you to look at the presidency of William McKinley. I ask you to look at the presidency of Warren G. Harding. And I ask you to look at the presidency of Calvin Coolidge. When tariffs are used correctly, and they are honed in at foreign entities, not necessarily foreign materials, but foreign entities that undercut our goods and undersell what American goods go for, it is a brilliant thing. Warren G. Harding had the best economy than any president next to his vice president, Calvin Coolidge. And the reason is he kept tariffs high against any country that produced anything similar to what America produced. And that is, if you wanted to sell a piece of furniture, or you wanted to sell a car here in this nation, well, we were going to give you 100% tariff and you were going to pay the tax. And if an American wanted to buy it, well, then they were going to have to pay a little bit more in order to do that. But the good news was, well, we have an American alternative, and it's right here and it's right there and it's affordable. But look at the American alternatives. How come it's easier for me to go out and get a Toyota, and it's cheaper for a Toyota than it is a Ford? That doesn't make sense to me. My dad is a vice president of a construction company out in the East Coast, Skanska, big construction company. And he told me that it is cheaper for him to get steel from China than it is to get steel from Pittsburgh. And he's in Boston. So Pittsburgh is literally just 2 states over. And it's easier for him to get steel from China and more affordable? How the hell did that happen? Where did we go in this country that we decided that American goods were going to cost more than foreign goods? We are putting foreigners in front of American industry, and it has done nothing but ravish our industry, create the economy that we talk about, and people love to talk about it all the time, especially Democrats, that we have this gig economy where people are basically doing gigs. Well, yeah, we have gig economy because the Democrats created NAFTA, which took all of our industry and sold it to China and sold it to Mexico, and we have nothing left here. We are being left with nothing, and we're watching as our culture, and we have an American culture. Don't let them tell you that we don't. We absolutely do. Our American culture is being ransacked on a daily basis. And we've got to ask ourselves, are we done with it? Are we done with this globalist nonsense? And do we want to return to a new nationalism that Roosevelt talked about, that TR, not FDR? Or do we want to keep being part of this globalist community where it's just one global economy, eventually one global currency, and we're being pushed and pushed further into currency that has no value and no meaning? If we would have stuck with the gold standard, if we would have stuck with the silver standard, our money would actually have value today. But we didn't, because we decided to placate other nations so that the dollar could compete on a global scale. Well, I'm tired of competing on a global scale. I don't give a shit about the global scale. I give a shit about that poor American worker, that construction worker, who instead of making what should be $30 or $40 an hour is now making 16 because the company can't afford to give him what it used to be able to, because they have to pay so much money in not just regulations and taxes, but also for goods and services. You know how much it costs them to be able to get things shipped to them through the through the rails. The rail system is one of the biggest users of American industry. It costs way too much for a company to ship from point A to point B using the rails, and that is not how it should be. When we created this country and we created the rail system, it was a cheap, affordable way for companies to get their products from their factories to the people. And we need to start putting the people first. And I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm not talking about illegals. I'm talking about Americans, because that's what I care about. I care about Americans. I care about all of you, and I care about your children. Go ahead, David.
Can you hear David?
I cannot. David, we're going to drop you down and then you can come on back up. In the meantime, let's go to Last Dragon.
Oh, thanks, Bryce. No, I agree with everything you said about the isolationism. Like, you look at what's happening in with the globalism. I know we all saw that clip with Donald Trump where he's talking. I think it was the UN, and he was just attacking all of them, and they did not like because he's telling them you got to pay your fair share.
I can't
Like,
hear. Bryce, can you hear?
you
Yes,
can't hear me?
I can hear him. I can hear you. I can hear him. Oracle, drop down and come back up.
I'm sorry. I agree with everything, Miss Amorosa, and everything you're saying. Like isolationism. Like right now, there was a like because now we have what Hurricane Milton is going to come in and destroy us even more, right? And then if this was happening in another country, they would expect us to send aid to them, right? Why aren't they sending aid to us? How does it not go both ways anymore? That's something I just like. I don't know. Can you explain that to me? Because it's I'm racking my brain trying to figure it out. Like why can't we help? Why can't they help us when they expect us to help them? And we also got to stop being Team America World Police because we're not the world police. We're not here to fix your problems. We should stay out of everyone else's conflicts. Figure it out yourself. We're not going to give you military aid anymore. Figure it out yourself. I mean, I don't understand it. Like you can maybe explain it better because I don't understand how it affects us in any way, shape, or form, and why they every other country puts themselves first, right? Or no? And why is it so bad that America puts us first? I'll land my plane there.
Oh, you're 100% right. Just so you know, on all goods that are shipped in from America to Japan, there's 100% tariffs against all of the goods that we ship into Japan. We can't ship shit in to Japan. We can't send our cars in without 100% tariff against us. But the minute we decide to put tariffs against Japan or tariffs against China or tariffs against any other nation that is developing these cars, we're wrong. Democrats are telling us that we are the problem, that we are that we're bigots, that we're racists, that we don't care about our economy. No, what we're saying is no, we absolutely care about our economy. We want shit made in the United States. We want to bring Ford back. We want to bring GM back. We don't want to see Saturn and our companies go the way of Saturn, Pontiac, and all of the other industries in America. This is how they con you into
Can I?
believing that you're wrong. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. So I would respectfully suggest, my friend, that that is not Trump's policy. You know, we have a $350 billion trade deficit with China, which dwarfs all the other countries combined. And the reason why his objective, this is a negotiative moment with him or for him, because his objective is to get them to open their markets to us. You know, it makes it's you're kind of a putz, or America has been a putz for saying, hey, we're for free trade, so you can sell anything you want to us. And then, of course, just like Bryce says, you know, our manufacturing goes away from us. And then that very same country, and in this case, communist China, says we're going to do everything we can uh, to keep you from selling into our markets. And Trump is just basically saying, okay, well, it's time to start getting tough with you and whip your ass. and they will submit because 40% of their economy is selling to us. So this is a negotiative moment. His objective is to get them to open their markets to us. I'm okay with the fact that I get my ouzo and olives from Greece. I'm okay. I don't need that. I don't want them to be more expensive. But if the country itself is creating all of these hurdles for Americans to sell into them, I'm like, well, that's not fair, and that's Trump's position. And then the other thing that you said that was good, Bryce, is the regulations. I mean, cement factories. I've had an executive with a big concrete company say, we want to build a plant in California, and they won't. The Californians won't let us. So guess what they do? They buy bags of concrete from China, which is obviously worse for the environment because they have to haul that shit over in these super tankers, and it's heavy. So the regulations and the hurdles that other countries are creating for us, that's the math that Trump is doing in terms of how to make it better for American workers, and that's it. I mean, I still agree with you about American companies sending their manufacturing out of the country. So when Trump says if Ford puts a manufacturing plant in Mexico, I'm going to charge them to send it back, because that's sort of a nasty, greedy thing to move you're an American company getting all the benefits from being an American company, but you're going to send those jobs across the border for other people. Now that I can see, but all of these are negotiative moments for Trump.
Trump is. I feel terrible for Trump because no matter what Trump does, they always try to spin it that he's wrong or he's racist or he's this. When he says, I want to curb the immigration policy a little bit. I want to start fixing things at home. Oh, you're a xenophobe. You're a racist. Well, no, 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 no. Let's go back to 1921 and let's go back to the Person Centum Act, which stated, and this was put in by Warren G. Harding in 1921, that immigration is only going to be allowed at 3% of the census population of 1910. Of 1910, it wasn't even 1921. It was 1910. That's how much was allowed to come into our nation, and the reason why Harding said that was because he simply said, I don't want foreigners competing with American workers. Foreigners come in, they undercut, they work for a lot less, Americans lose their jobs. I want to make sure that we can have high sustainable jobs, and I want to be able to make sure that Americans have their jobs. Why did we go away from that style of thinking? Why did we go away from American protectionism? I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think it's wrong to say, we're going to start putting tariffs on certain countries so that we can protect American industry and we can protect American workers. McKinley, if you look at his presidency, he had some of the highest tariffs against other nations, and he had the strongest economy up until the point where Warren G. Harding became president. Why? Because we had high tariffs on almost every foreign good that came in. And the
But Bryce,
idea was that we had it here in America. You're going to have to pay for, if we had, David, say for you, and I know we don't have olives necessarily made in the United States, but if we had American olives, you can buy American olive cheaper than you could buy Italian olives. That was the idea. Protect the American worker.
but Bryce, that really look the the moment when economics launched itself like a Trident missile, the moment modern economics began, was an Athenian culture when they began trading with all of their respective partners in the Aegean, all the way up to the Black Sea, all the way down to the Peloponnesian, to the Peloponnesus. And that was the beginning of modern economics, where you had all of this vibrant trade, and then the economies began to rise. If I were to pull a list of vendors, for instance, from your local grocery store, they would be from all over the world. There'd be hundreds of thousands of vendors from all over the world. Also, when people manufacturing things, the parts endemic to those manufacturing, again, even the people that make the insides of your cars, like Visteon, and I've seen these, by the way, I've seen these vendor lists, and they're from all over the world. So it'd be hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. It'd be hard to sort of make it go totally nativist. But my point is that the low hanging fruit here is to make sure that it works both ways. I'm okay if we have an organic trade deficit because we just buy a lot of things from one little country and they don't buy much from us. But this idea that they're stopping us from getting in their markets, that's go to hell time. That's time to say, and as far as immigration, when Warren G. Harding was president, it wasn't really a problem anyway, because if people failed in the United States, they went back home. They really couldn't hurt our economy in that way. Milton Friedman called himself a radical for liberty, but people were surprised at his answer when someone said, "Hey, Pat Buchanan said we should build a wall. What do you think we should do?" And he said, "Well, when you become a welfare state, you have to consider those things." He said, "I don't like to consider those things. But when you become a welfare state, you have to consider those things. Make no mistake about it, folks. When you rob Peter to pay Paul, if you can count on Paul's vote, then you know the Democrat Party is just trying to import more Pauls. That's the whole thing. Even if they're coming in with good intentions, they're going to be made the unwitting accomplice of the left by inveigling them with all of this money. By here, you can get on the dole. I mean, we've spent over $400 billion on these people. Clearly, there's a quid pro quo going on here. But all of these problems are created by the state. They're not, Thomas Paine was right about this. Government at best is a necessary evil, but at worst, it's an absolute affliction, and that's what's happening now.
Well, David, I know that it's going to be a very difficult path for America to go back to self-sufficiency. But I think at this point, it is imperative that we go back to self-sufficiency. If we don't, we honestly face what the Roman Empire faced during its collapse. The Roman Empire needed foreigners to stock their armies with. We're talking about the same thing. We need other people from other nations to serve in our military because we've spread ourselves too thin. We don't make anything here in the United States, much like the Roman Empire stopped doing this, started making everything elsewhere. And there was a complete and total collapse within their economy. It's gonna hurt. I'm not saying that this is gonna be an easy fix where we can just wave a wand and we'll go back to the way that it was in 1921. This is gonna take serious effort on the part of the American people and our government. We're gonna have to say enough is enough. We're tired. We want to come back and we want to bring everything back to the United States. Trade is wonderful, but if trade is not beneficial to this country, then that trade should be suspended. Trade was that's how George Washington envisioned this nation. George Washington said that we should have zero foreign entanglements, we should have absolutely no allies, but we should trade with everybody, so long as that trade was advantageous to America. Well, trade is no longer advantageous to us. We have trade deficits with almost every single nation. Why? Why do we allow that stuff? Because we want a foreign good, or we want a material, or we want a piece of energy at a cheaper rate. But we have enough oil here in this country. We have enough know how to engineer more nuclear power plants here in this country where we could be self sufficient. If we're not self sufficient, then we are reliant on the globe. And look at what the globe is trying to do to us. They're giving us the World Economic Forum. They're giving us the World Health Organization. These people are creating manufactured pandemics so that they can take over our governments and tell us what we can and cannot do. I'm telling you that if we don't, and we don't run fast towards American nationalism and saying, no, enough is enough, we are going to lose this country completely. And are we willing to do that? That's my question to all of you. Are we willing to lose this beautiful nation of ours just so that we can play on the global scale? Go ahead, Oracle.
Yes, I mean, the things that the United States has been investing in has been the military industrial complex, right? And which has been it's just money laundering through foreign entities. We've been building prisons and, around here across America, smart apartments, 5G, 6G towers in the surveillance state. That's what we've been investing in, as well as pharmaceutical technology. Um, Biological engineering, all of that technology, that's where our tax dollars have been going. That's where our money has been going. It's been going to put poison on food like glyphosate, which we pay for that. We actually, our tax dollars, when you file your tax returns or whatever, when you pay any taxes, this is what we are actually paying for. Our schools are completely neglected. I mean, we see what's happening, right? All of our eyes are open. And then if you look at someone like Elon Musk, who's like who's building things like building rockets and, the first American car company in years and like doing all of building infrastructure, creating fobs, like doing all of this stuff. He's getting punished and threatened to have his companies taken away. They are actually threatening to take away his companies. They are actually threatening to take away Starlink because there's so many satellites and it's so powerful. I mean, we saw what happened in Brazil, and now the president of Brazil is one of the leaders, going to be next year, one of the leaders of the World Economic Forum. And that's exactly what they do in China. When a billionaire becomes super powerful, they just take him out. And my friends in excuse me, my friends in China, like the way it works is the kids of the communist leaders, the kids are the ones who get the factories. And then the banks are the government. They're directly connected. It's the same thing with FedNow. FedNow digitize, they just the money is allocated through Congress. It goes straight to FedNow. It goes through whatever bank, Citibank, whatever, all controlled by BlackRock, Bank of America, and then it's instantaneously transferred to whatever foreign entity or wherever it's going to go, and it's untrackable. I mean, we can't even, they don't even have receipts on what's happening in the IRS. This is a complete and 100% an attempt to take out the United States. And you are absolutely right, Bryce. We have to invest in our infrastructure. You are right. We should not be shipping. I mean, you know, the what I am witnessing with in my where the things that I do, I am shocked that in order to produce something, they ship the material all the way across the United States to China where it's processed on barges, by the way, which is like killing whales. I mean, it's atrocious for the environment, and then shipped all the way back here on barges. And what about that carbon footprint? And then just a bunch of plastic being shipped into everywhere. I mean, it's disgusting. It's disgusting, and we have to reevaluate the way that we are doing things. And what you are saying is correct, because it comes down to the individual, right? Our families, our communities, taking care of our land, taking care of our resources, connecting with the water, connecting with the farmers. I mean, Make America First Again is Make America Healthy Again. It's all connected. And it's nationalism might sound intense, but really it's about protecting our ecosystems, protecting our environments, which include our families, which include our communities. And when we can see how things are manufactured, for example, if a company is weaving fabric, right? There's some really beautiful mills down in North Carolina, South Carolina, these beautiful companies. They're the last of the few, because most of it was exported in the 1980s and 90s to China, right? But then you can see how the fabric is created. You can see that, okay, this fabric is Suprema cotton, it's grown in Texas, it uses this amount of water, then it's shipped over here. We can actually see, like, okay, this is the actual carbon footprint. It is much, much less. If you are moving cotton from Texas, you can see exactly how much water is being used. It goes straight to the mill. You can see the processing. A lot of the processing is they're using solar power, they're using alternative energy sources, which are really great, but we can see it. But this business of sending our industry across oceans to use slave labor, to use to that where they just dump pollutants into the rivers, right? And the crazy thing is that, my friends in China, they grew up swimming in the rivers, playing in the forest. They could see the stars when they were little in the 1980s. Like they would go out and they would, like everyone grew their own food. It was the same thing. But what happened in the 1980s? They started building the factories in all of the towns, building the villages, building the smart apartment complexes right next to the factories, building apartments in the factories. Exactly what's happening right now in the United States. They're building the smart cities right next to the Amazon distribution centers. They don't care anymore. You don't get your like single family house in a cookie cutter sprawl. They don't care. They're stacking people on top of each other. That's what the future cities look like. It looks exactly like what happened in China. But the difference is what's happening in China now is they are actually building 21 nuclear power plants to get off of the carbon. They have completely digitized their digitizing their systems. Like everything is transferring over to computers. I mean, if I don't know if you guys saw the port video, but they don't even have like port workers anymore. It's all robotics because they're actually investing back into the infrastructure. Meanwhile, what are we investing in, right? And so it sounds like, so I totally agree with you, Bryce, because it is the way that we can protect our communities, we can protect our families, we can protect our environment, and we can produce beautiful things. We can produce a beautiful world by paying attention to how things are created. And being and having the capability to create businesses, which it's impossible right now because taxes are so high. You can't start a business in California. It's really, really hard. Taxes are like more than 50%, for the average person, because if you add on the city tax and you add on this and that, it's like impossible. So anyway, thank you. Yeah, I'm
And
I'm
well, and it's for a reason. They don't want to create any new businesses. They don't want any new American manufacturing. And if you actually go, Steve Ratner is one of the biggest douchebags in American history, and he is somebody that used to work for the Treasury Department. He's on Morning Joe all the time, which is also a sickening show. But I mean, he basically says, "Well, American manufacturing is dead." No, motherfucker, American manufacturing isn't dead. The only reason it's dead is because we keep allowing all of these companies to go overseas and allow them to get labor at pennies on the dollar, and we make it so that Chinese steel or Russian oil or whatever is far more affordable than Pittsburgh steel or Texas oil. That's not how this should be. I'm sorry, but God gave us this country so that we could be self-sufficient. When our ancestors came over here, when the Puritans came over here from England, it was a desire to get away from the globalistic society of Europe. And it was a desire to come back and come within their communities. America was built on the idea of self-sufficiency. And I don't know, I guess since the 2000 era, I haven't seen a lot of self-sufficiency. I've been seeing a lot of, well, it's easier to let this country take care of the automotive industry, or it's easier to give Taiwan our chips. Like, we've decided that in order to help boost up the Taiwanese government and the Taiwanese economy, that we were no longer going to make chips here in the United States. We were going to allow all the chips to be made in Taiwan. Why? Just because we wanted to make sure that China can't get to them? Well, China can get to them if they want to. It's none of our business what happens to Taiwan. It's none of our business what happens to Ukraine. It's none of our business what Israel does in their country. I'm sorry, what Israel wants to do, they have every right to do, but they shouldn't get American tax dollars, and we shouldn't send troops over there. We need to remove ourselves from all foreign entanglements and all foreign conflicts. And I know there's a lot of you out there, well, it's just not realistic. Bullshit, it is. We've been conned into believing that we can't do it, but Japan does it. How come Japan has basically an isolationist country right now? How come Japan has high tariffs on everything and their economy's fucking booming? But the minute that Donald Trump talks about tariffs, you've got every jackass economist that Time Magazine and MSNBC can come out saying, well, Trump's going to ruin the economy. We're going to have huge deficits, and we're going to have even a bigger national debt. But I could literally show you the economy in Japan and show you that that's not the case. They have surpluses in Japan. They're actually paying down their national debt because of all the money that they're making off of tariffs. They are deciding that they want to be self-sufficient. But it's not okay for America to be self-sufficient. It's not okay for us to stand up and say no more. I think that that's wrong, guys. And I think we got to start asking ourselves, do you trust your neighbor, or do you trust some guy in the UK? Do you trust the person that you grew up with your entire life? Or do you think that some person in Taiwan is more important than your best friend that you grew up with? I don't know about you, but I trust my best friend more than I'd trust somebody from the United Kingdom. I trust my best friend more than I trust some government over in Taiwan. I trust the people of America more than I trust any entity outside of it. And I want to see America thrive. I want every single person to have that American dream. And in order to do that, we need to close our borders. We need to restrict immigration. We need to start saying that no more are you going to be allowed to send our hardworking manufacturing overseas. That's not going to cut it anymore. We are going to put tariffs against nations that want to undersell and undercut American industry. We're going to put higher taxes on companies that decide that they want to put their majority of their workforce uh, over in China or Taiwan or wherever it's convenient for them. And you know what? Maybe we should start talking about going back to a gold standard. Maybe we should talk about making our money actually have some sort of value to it so that our children and your grandchildren and all of the children of this country can have money that actually means something. How is it that $1 billion in 1942 equates to almost $40 billion right now? Why is that? Because our money actually had fucking value in the 1940s. We were on a gold standard. It's not just inflation. It's the fact that our money means nothing. It's a paper note. It's credit. It's literally toilet paper. It's backed by nothing other than the fact that you believe it has that it has value. This is greenback. This is the greenback party. This idea that we'll just print, 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 and it doesn't matter because our money doesn't mean anything. When something doesn't mean anything, why do we have a nation? Why do we have any of those things? Well, that's what they want to do. They don't want us to have a nation. They don't want us to have a currency. They want us to be a part of a global community. They want us to have a global currency. Look at what the EU is doing right now. They have the euro. Do you want that? Is this the America that you want? Do you want to have some kind of currency that we can share between fucking Canada and Mexico? No, I'm sorry. And you know, guys, I'm going to swear here, but fuck Canada and fuck Mexico. I'm not concerned about them. I'm concerned about America and our American currency. I don't care if it upends the world, or the globe because we decided that we're going to the gold standard and that we're going to actually have value to our dollar. I don't care about that. I don't care what happens to the globe. I care about what happens to you guys. I care about what happens to Americans. Go ahead, Oracle.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that they're actually purposely, like Soros is trying to crash the dollar. Like they're purposely trying. I mean, that's why there's these insane deficits. Like and also it's not even paper money anymore. It's all digitized, right? And I think that this is a really important element of what's happening because this everything that's happening, the reason that the globalists are attempting this takeover is because they believe they have the technology in order to survey every single person on the planet, right? Like every single person has a data point. They believe that they can control everyone. They're building, Microsoft is building Stargate. Even we're talking about nuclear energy. While Amazon just bought a nuclear power plant, Microsoft is building a nuclear power plant. Oracle is building a nuclear power plant. So they're all building nuclear power plants. The privatization of energy to go to the technology that is used to control and monitor every single person. And then money has been or the idea of currency has been completely digitized. So it is their plan, or what they're trying to do is attach that to every individual and then to use that as a control mechanism. And it's a very real reality because it's like the merger of the banks and the government, right? And that's what we don't want. And so you're right about Elon Musk. He said something really interesting. He was in a space and he said that currency, he said the way that he perceives currency is that it is, oh gosh, what did he say exactly? I don't want to misquote him, but he said it was basically like a tool to, you know what, I'll come back with the exact quote because I wrote it down, but it was really powerful. And it was essentially about currency is, allocates labor. It's a way to, um, anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that going, as you were saying initially, right? Making it a gold standard, that would be amazing. I mean, that would be amazing. Finding the value, like the actual value of things. And we're seeing this now, connecting with our neighbors and like connecting with the farmers, bartering is the best time to make your own stuff, right? To make your own thing. So you have something to actually be able to trade or grow. Like, I mean, it sounds wild, but it's really true. And if we could go back to a gold standard, I think it would be extraordinarily valuable because it really would give us the ability to be independent. Thank you.
Well, and they're trying to scare us too, right? Like they tell us, well, if you don't have allies and you don't have all of this, then Russia's going to run over Europe. Well, bullshit. Russia, last time I checked, in 1992, the wall fell. And since 1992, Russia hasn't invaded any nation unless they have felt threatened. Why does NATO still existing? NATO should have ended the minute that wall came down. The minute Russia decided that they were going to go towards a democracy, America should have jumped on the bandwagon and said, congratulations, this is wonderful. I'm so happy that you're going to be a democracy. You know what? We're pulling out of NATO. Guys, mission accomplished. Communism is done. We can now refocus on our own country and let's make all of ourselves prosperous. But instead, what we've done, Oracle, is exactly what you've said. We've used the military industrial complex to basically run money laundering schemes through NATO. And we've got to just eventually stand up and stop the madness and call out the liars. You gotta go, and we gotta do it in our school systems too. Like, this is the thing that frustrates me the most is people don't realize these things are going on because our education system is so poor. Jimmy Carter destroyed our education system when he created the Department of Education. When Reagan signed that thing into law, and the federal government got control over our education, we went from number 1 to number 22. How did that happen? Well, you give the government any kind of ability to take charge over anything, and they, time and time again, have proven themselves inept to handle it. The localities handled it so much better. When you had parents in control over the standard of their education, and that meant whether or not they wanted prayer in school, too, we were thriving. We are no longer thriving. And looking in the Black communities, because this is what Carter used. Well, we're doing this because the poorer and the Black communities need to have a good education. We're just trying to level the playing field. Go into any Black community, and what you're going to start seeing is their schools are being closed down and they're being turned into apartment complexes. So don't, like, for me, miss me with your bullshit that you were trying to make anything equal. What you're trying to do is create a bunch of individuals that are reliant on the state, that are reliant on government, and believe whatever it is that you tell them. And it's a terrible, terrible thing. We shouldn't be doing this to children. Children used to have individual thought, and now they're being told if you have an individual thought, you're wrong. You got ADHD. We got to pill you. We got to do all these things. Why? Why are we taking the creativity and all the things that made America so fucking amazing? Why are we taking it away? I don't understand it. You can call me whatever you want to call me. I don't care. Like, I'm not hiding it anymore. I'm an isolationist. I'm America first. This is why I'm doing the MAFA report, because I believe that we need to make America first again. I believe that America needs to come before every other nation in this world. I think that we need to put ourselves, and we need to be selfish about it. We need to tell the foreign world we're done with you. We need to tell the UK, you're not an ally. You are problematic. Look at what you're doing to your society. We don't want what you're doing to your society over here. Look at what the EU is doing to their society. We need to say the exact same thing to Europe. We need to say, you guys are a fucking mess, and we want nothing to do with you. And we need to come back from within. We need to start teaching American history again. We need to start teaching American pride again. There is no reason that every child that graduates high school doesn't have pride in his country. How is it that only 17% of Americans have pride, that are graduating high school have pride in this nation? It's because of the teachers, it's because of education, and it's because of our federal government. You give federal government any sort of power, they manipulate it. Go ahead, Lapis.
So I think that if you look at history and you look at what the United States has been doing since the 90s with Russia in regards, they've done everything in their power to push Russia back into the arms of China, because you have a lot of people in the boomer generation who just want to keep the Cold War going. They don't want actual world stability. And a good example would be there was a peace treaty in the early 2000s. Bush actually sabotaged that agreement. They also went back on their promise once the Soviet Union ended, not to continuously expand NATO. It got to the point where they were basically inviting the countries on Russia's border, right? And I feel like we could have. I don't think they would ever be like pro America, but I do think that we could have made them at least into a somewhat neutral country, like Turkey used to be. Like it could have been better. Like we could have had like relations and stuff. But what happened is we keep pushing them away, and we keep using this warmongering rhetoric, and all it did was basically just strengthen China. And it's gotten so bad. In Germany, they told people, "Oh, well, Russia's really bad, so we're not going to use Russian gas anymore," even though it is like one of the things that makes people able to have heat in this country. You're just gonna have like low. You're just gonna have to use less heat and less hot showers. So basically, lower your standard of living, and basically in winter you're gonna have to suffer because Ukraine is much more important, right? So if you guys don't know, in parts of Germany it can get really cold in the winter, and the government's basically saying, you have to suffer. So it's just these boomers, they don't understand. It really is just sad, but that's just the reality, and they don't know how
Well,
to.
I don't know if it's necessarily the boomers, right? Like, if we look
I
at,
don't mean boomers in general. I just mean the politicians and the boomer mentality that some of them have. I
I
don't mean
think
every
we
single
should call
boomer
it
in
the
the
we should
world. You
call
know
it
what I mean?
MSM mentality, right? Mainstream media mentality, right? Because this is what's happening. We've had a long history of our media basically brainwashing American society into believing a certain way or believing a certain thing. And I can't blame people for watching news and believing that the news is telling them the truth, right? Because the fourth estate, that's what they were supposed to be. They're supposed to be this unbiased, um, uh, 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 shining example of freedom of speech, and they're not. They're just basically a tool used by Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street now to manipulate the American society, and they've been doing it for a very long time, and they're very good at it. What we just really need to do, and this is my opinion, and guys, if you really like what you're listening to, please go into the Purple Pill and give this a repost. I'd love to have as many people in here as possible, and then we'll go to Miss Amorosa after this. But I want you to look at the history of America. In the 1920s, we had troops down at the border. When there was a rise, and this was just like maybe 10,000 people coming in a year, right? This is 10,000, not the millions of people that are fucking crossing. Warren Harding said this was a travesty against the American people, and it wasn't going to stand. And he sent the military down to the border to secure the border. Why aren't we doing that now? Our military is the greatest military in the world. We have more technology than any other country does. You cannot tell me that if we didn't put our military and put bases down on the southern northern borders, that we couldn't secure our border within a year. I guarantee you we would stop seeing crossings within the millions, and within 2 years there would be no crossings whatsoever. And how do I know that? Jordan. Jordan's borders, which we take care of and which we have a wall in, nobody gets through and nobody gets out unless we know about it. So don't tell me that that we can't get control over our borders. We're doing it for other nations. We need to start doing it for ourselves. We need to start really caring about our American nation and not about a global nation. Go ahead, Miss Amorosa.
That was the perfect time to let me chime in, Bryce. Thank you. Yeah, everyone, please share the space. This couldn't be more important now. Really get in there and encourage everyone to listen in. Um, I think it's like the most important thing to spread the word that we mustn't be apologetic to put America first. If we can't take care of our own people, we have no business trying to reach out and trying to change the world in other countries. It's just not going to happen. If we cannot take care of our own children, if we cannot take care of our own families and ensure that they have a future ahead of them that's worth living, then there's nothing else that's important. So, America first has to be the top priority. And unfortunately, the Department of Education, I wanted to go back on that, for years and years and years, they have basically stripped the minds of our children to make them not proud to be American, to be embarrassed to want to say America first. They make them feel that it's racist to say that. But there is nothing wrong with putting your people and your country first. It has to stop. And the only way we can stop it is if we all stand together and say, you know what? I'm on board for this, and you should be on board for this as well, because this is hurting our country. This is bleeding our people dry. So it's time, to put our families first. And when I say our families, I don't mean, just our nuclear family. I'm talking about the families that make our country, that work for our country. So please, if you can share this space, and not only when you're in the space, in conversations, don't be ashamed to say America first. They have tried to taint this America first as being, that this is bad, and this is not bad. This means that we will thrive. And the only way we can thrive is by taking care of our country and taking care of its people. And this, I have to agree with Oracle, this truly is what makes America healthy again. I mean, just the idea. I mean, I can't even watch the news, and I won't watch the news. I'm saddened by the people that do tune in and think that they're watching free press and it's just propaganda. They're brainwashing the minds of our American people. So have these conversations, outside of the spaces, within your communities, make those phone calls and really let people know what's at stake if we put America last. If we put America last, we're just basically giving up and surrendering our country to this global agenda. And we can't let that happen. Now more than ever, we have the momentum, we have the opportunity to be a part of history. I mean, this is something I truly believe that we will read in history books one day. I have never felt more proud to be American, and I have never felt more proud of my American people than now. So it's up to us. It's up to us to educate, to motivate, and encourage everyone to get on board for America first. There's nothing wrong with it. Never be ashamed for that.
And I think, we can also point out where people are like, politicians are actually doing something about it and doing well. And this is, I give credit where credit is due. Ron DeSantis going in and saying, hey, you need to know a little something about the American Constitution before you can graduate. Hey, you need to know something a little bit about American history before you can graduate. I applaud that. I applaud him for taking over and saying, you know what, I'm so sick of the federal government telling me how Florida needs to run their schools. You're not doing that anymore. Here's what's going to happen. This is how it's going to be. And you know what? I think Floridians are going to be better off for it. They're going to understand America a little bit better because they're being taught American history. They're being taught our Constitution. They're being taught the Bill of Rights. Here in Michigan, we've got kids that are graduating, they can't even read. How are you graduating and you can't even read? They can't do basic math skills. That's in what world is that okay? I I can tell you right now, I would have never graduated my high school if I couldn't read or have basic math skills or understand history. That would have been not okay. But the pandemic came along and we seceded all of our rights and we allowed the government to come in and bring in the WEF and bring in WHO and decide for us what was going to happen. And we got to stop it. I mean, if the pandemic didn't convince you that we need to strengthen our American bond, that we need to bring pride back in this nation, I don't know what will. Because this is a scary world that we're living in. Thank God that I'm applauding Austria today. You know, they just elected they call them a far right, but it's just a right winged government that has said we are going to stop the flood of immigrants coming into this country. They're going to close their borders. That's what they want. We need to do the same thing. We need to say enough is enough, and we're going to close our borders. And we're not going to let a single person in, and we're going to stop immigration for a while. Because you know what? We need to make sure that every single American has a job. We need to make sure that every single American is working before we allow anybody to come in and compete against an American. We need to be okay with saying that. We need to be okay with saying that we're going to put America first, that our interests are an American interests. It's not a British interest. It's not an Italian interest. It's not a Chinese interest. It's not a Taiwanese interest. It's an American interest. Our interest needs to be about our people, about our children, and about the future of our economy. And also, more importantly, about our veterans. How is it that veterans are dying out on the streets homeless, but we can spend these billions and billions of dollars overseas? Why not spend the billions and billions of dollars creating affordable, sustainable homes for veterans to go in? I'm going to push it out to you guys. I say not a single penny more goes to another foreign country until every single homeless veteran and every single homeless child, and I mean American child, has a house and has a job. And until that day, we should the Statue of Liberty should say, "Sorry, we're closed." Go ahead, Gov Ops Master. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was listening to what you were saying earlier, and I think you're making a lot of really good points. One thing I'd like to just point out, I'm not sure of everybody's age who's on here, but you guys are the future, and the decisions that you make now and the way that you see the world is the world that you're going to shape. So we are in the remnants of a completely different world that won't let go of how things used to be. And they had an idea a very long time ago about the world that they wanted to create. And now that they see that world collapsing in front of them, they're not letting go of it. They're not letting go of it because honestly, it is a problem for them because our education, as you were saying earlier, was very good before the Department of Education. And then even when the Department of Education started, it was still very good. It took a while before it completely became the disaster that we see today. And now they just can't let go. And I understand why they can't let go. But I think that also when you're younger and you have knowledge and you understand that things do not have to be the way that they are is the most dangerous thing to these older politicians that have crammed themselves into power. They're used to their contract fraud. They're used to embezzling money. And that was the way of their world. And obviously we don't have to continue that path. We can choose a different path. And now I think that everybody it's weird. It's like there's a weird awakening that's just happening now where people are coming together and they're understanding that, yeah, maybe I don't like the same color that you do, but this is America. I'm an American. So are you. And we need to protect the country and the country's interests. But that's all I just wanted to touch on. And thanks for letting me speak. And I got to run back to work, but I'll be around again later on. I'm going to listen for a little while here. But thanks again for letting me speak.
Well, thank you for coming on here, and God bless you, man. You know, I just think that I, I think there's prime examples of the distortion that the government, and especially the federal government through historians, economists, all of that, are trying to do to push and manipulate us towards a certain direction, right? And I say that to you, for those of you that know history or know anything about the American presidents. Warren G. Harding is ranked one of the worst presidents in America consistently. This man is on the lower end of presidents. He said that, it's told that he was a crook, that he allowed hookers into the White House, all of these horrible things that are completely not true, because we don't want the American people to know about Harding, and we don't want the American people to know about Coolidge, right? Did you guys know that Harding and Coolidge, every year of their presidency, they had a surplus? Every year of their presidency, they brought down the federal budget. They paid down the national debt every year of their presidency. No, of course we don't hear about that, because they don't want you to hear about that. They instead want you to idolize people like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was a globalist scumbag and it just basically moved Americanism to the globe. And we want to idolize people like, and I'm sorry to say this because I know some of you are going to be upset about this, Ronald Reagan. But what did Reagan do? Reagan was a prime mover of this march towards globalism, this march towards a global unitary world. And instead of looking at a conservative like Warren G. Harding or Calvin Coolidge, we're told conservatives like Reagan, conservatives like Bush, conservatives like these are the people. No, fuck that. Those aren't conservatives, man. Those are globalists. Don't idolize those people. Idolize the real conservatives who stood up for their American economy, who limited the amount of people that were allowed to come into this nation, that put tariffs on other nations, that put America first. There's a great lie being perpetrated on the American people, and we need to combat it. We need to stop it. And it's up to every single one of us. We have a platform, whether you have 20 followers or you have 20,000 followers. You have a platform where you can put the truth out. And it's up to every single one of us to combat this lie and really push the truth out there. End the globalist takeover of social media. We can do it together. Go ahead, Chris. Mr. Nelson, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, hey, what's up, Bryce? Yeah, you just hit on something there that is my main concern. And you hear about World War III and all these things happening. Civilization as we know it will collapse if we don't vote for Donald Trump, and on and on. But the main concern that I've had for my whole life, and I'm 41. So that would make me I was almost Gen X. I wore the flannel shirts. I had the Janko jeans. The grunge. It was kind of like a clash between grunge and goth. But I always loved electronic dance music. But I thought that would make me gay, so I didn't say I liked it at the time. But I'm like right there at the cusp of millennial. At the very very. I'm an elder millennial, I guess you could say. But my concern has always been the national debt as our number one national security concern, because people don't seem to take it seriously. Trump's just like, oh, we'll pay it off with Mario coins or Bitcoins or whatever. People just it's kind of become a joke at this point. But if we have a guy now who has driven us into more debt than any president in history, Donald Trump. And if you just look at the numbers, take all the excuses away. I get it, there's excuses, but and then he's now got a bunch of proposals saying he's basically going to do it again when he gets in office. He's going to
Wait,
run our debt.
what are you talking about? You're saying Donald Trump? I think
Yeah,
we need to, I
Biden
think we,
just surpassed. He's got $10 trillion right now
yeah,
worth
and
of
also,
debt.
All right, so he's number two then. Number two. I
no.
mean,
You need to, if,
no, Trump drove us into crippling debt.
n-
That's just a fact. You
no,
can't argue with facts, okay? It's a fact.
it's a fact.
Just
Okay,
accept it.
then post that fact down in the purple bubble
That
so we
was the
can see
House,
it.
not Trump. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Congress controls the purse strings.
Yes,
Yeah, but
that's
Trump signs
absolutely
carry
true.
that. Trump can veto any of those things.
And who
To,
wrote the
to finish
bill and
what I was
who
saying,
passed the bill? What
to
what
finish what I was saying, yes, I know, it's
Go
never Trump's fault. I got it.
go
But
ahead.
to tell you finish what I was saying, what Bryce was saying is absolutely right. The national debt is the biggest problem we face, and it used to be that Republicans were talking about that. That was a major concern. But now they've just abandoned all of that, and now it's just, oh, if you're not on our side, you're a communist, traitor, all these other things. Your concerns are not relevant. You have Trump derangement syndrome if you bring up anything that he did his first term that you're concerned about him doing again. And that's the main reason I can't get behind him, because he's proposing these tariffs and all these other things that are going to drive our debt even higher. And if you want to see us ruined as a
But
country,
whoa,
didn't
hold
you
on one
endorse
second, Chris.
Kamala, who
I got
literally has a
Yeah, that's what I was
he
socialist
going
did
to
as his
say.
VP
he did, but
Do
that's
candidate?
not do
okay.
getting off.
That's okay.
Kamala's proposal is half of what would drive
Didn't
us
you
into
endorse
debt, and half
Kamala,
as
who
much as
literally
Trump.
has a socialist as her VP candidate?
Hold on just one second, and then I'll let you guys all go after each other. I just want to make this very clear. We have had tariffs in this nation for a long time. If you look, and I've already said this, the top three economies that we had were under William McKinley, Warden G. Harding, and Calvin Coolidge. You can go look it up. That was when we had the highest amount of tariffs than any time or any place, and we had the best economy. Tariffs do not drive up the national debt. That is a lie that is being told by globalists who believe that if we start putting tariffs and we start going back to the old ways of doing things, they're going to lose power. And you know what? They should be absolutely afraid of that, because they're going to lose power. If we go back to the old ways of doing things, and this is another thing that just pisses me off, because this notion that when Donald Trump says I want to go back to the 1920s or the 1950s, everybody, oh, he wants to go back to where civil rights wasn't a thing. No. What he's saying is I want to go back to when we were self-sufficient, where American industry was number one, where we were number one. I was not a pro-Trump person, guys. This is the first time in my life that I'm going to be voting for Donald Trump. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016, and then I made a big ass mistake and voted for Joe Biden. But my eyes were woken up to the deception of the Democratic Party and the neocons by Robert Kennedy Jr. And once my eyes were awakened to the bullshit that's going on, it could never go back. I can never ever go back. So listen, yes, Trump made mistakes his first term. Nobody's denying that. But to say that it's all Trump's fault is TDS, because it is not all his fault. He did not have a friendly Congress to him. He had establishment Republicans working against him consistently. He had establishment Republicans in the Senate. He had establishment Republicans in the Congress, not looking out for that man's interests. He had people telling him where he would go and tell them to do something like General Mattis, and Mattis would ignore his directions. So, it's one thing to say that Trump made mistakes. It's a complete other thing to say that Trump is the reason why we have this massive spending or this massive debt. It is not his fault. He takes partial blame for it because he listened to some really bad individuals. But really, the people responsible are the neocons and the neoliberals that are sitting in Congress today that we refuse to kick out.
Bryce, can I please say something?
Hell yeah, you can say this is free
Oh,
speech
okay.
here.
Chris, I appreciate you coming into this space because oftentimes these spaces can become echo chambers. So I appreciate this. But
I don't really believe that, but
but
okay.
hold on, I just want to say something though, because you came in here and no, it's true, but you came in here and a lot of the things you're saying sound like catchphrases, right? That's not that personally, that I don't believe those things. So,
What, like make America great again?
but listen, just let me say that, you know, Elon Musk went in and he went to the head of all of his people at X when he first bought X, and they said it was going to take 6 months to take down the servers. He was able to do it in 1 week because he went with his nephews and did it himself. He built a factory in 132 days, right? Like, this is the person that is going to streamline our country. This is the team. And then if you look at Kennedy, and
Whoa, whoa,
wait,
whoa,
hold on,
what?
let me finish. Let me finish.
What?
Let me finish.
Huh?
Can I
Chris,
What?
finish?
Chris, Chris, you will respect the person that is speaking, or I will remove you. I want you to be able to speak, and
Bryce,
you have every
I
right.
apologize. I just didn't know what she was talking about when she was like,
Well,
he's gonna
just
streamline, or
just
I
let
didn't know what she was
her
talking
explain herself, and then you can
about.
speak.
Okay,
Chris, I'm not
all right,
gonna. I don't want to. I'm not gonna not let you have
okay.
your say. You have the right to say what you want to as well.
Thank you so much. Yes. And then you have Kennedy, who has gone against the pharmaceutical industry for years. Big pharma, right? The agricultural industrial complex. Like, it's very, very serious, the amount of pesticides that they're putting on the food. It is actually truly poisoning people. I mean, there's 3 pounds of glyphosate on every single person consumes. And look at all of these microplastics. And there's no accountability for what's happening with the pharmaceuticals. In California, our kids can't go to school unless they have 72 vaccines. They can't go to school. So, just if you take a moment and you look at the team and what's happening, that compared to the annihilation of free speech, right? I mean, we're up against something that's very serious, and I can understand why globalism to some people is attractive. There's a lot of, as you mentioned, some of these phrases, but if you open your eyes and you look at what's happening, you'll see that not is all that it seems. And if you just mentioned the deficit, you mentioned these things, but please do the research. Look into what's happening with big agriculture and look at how we are spending our tax dollars. Like, why is it that we're spending all of this money on Ukraine? Why is it that we're giving Lebanon, hundreds of millions of dollars when we have people that are still stranded that can't even get their insulin in North Carolina, right? Like, we're facing some very, very serious things. And on top of that, it's all, I mean, if you look at the UN and you look at the UN's Future Generations meeting that they just had, I mean, look at what they're proposing. Go to that website and look at those documents and look at what they're proposing and read that information and then think about it, because the military industrial complex is money laundering our money right now. That's what's happening that's what we are paying for with our tax dollars. And meanwhile, our schools are falling apart. We're not investing in clean energy, actually. We're not building anything. Everything is being taken from us. And you go to the market and food is almost twice as expensive, like a loaf of bread, milk. People are suffering. So yeah, we can sit here and we can talk about politics and we can say all of these things and back and forth and all of these catchphrases and all of this marketing that's thought about very clearly. I know this very well, okay? The marketing, what goes on behind it to come up with these catchphrases. But go out and look at what's actually happening. People are being poisoned. I mean, actually poisoned. I mean, yeah. And if you look at that information and you look at what's happening, there has to be some sort of accountability. And so we have to reassess how we're doing things. So that's all I want to say. And I'm not it's not that, us throwing our whatever our catchphrases back and forth at each other. I think it's useless because I think at the end of the day, we all want the same things. We all want clean, healthy food, right? Clean air, clean water. We have to work together in order to make that happen. But we also have to take radical self accountability. And it's not about just like parroting the marketing of political parties. It's about actually opening our eyes and looking at what's happening. All of this money stuff that you're talking about, most of it doesn't even matter. It's what's happening. We're being attacked, and World War III looks very different than we might perceive. I'll land there.
Can I respond?
Kay, go ahead.
Were you talking to me or you're telling him? Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm talking to you, Kay. Kay Cass. Yeah, it's you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi, guys.
It's lapsus.
Yeah, actually, I just hopped in here. I was just looking at, I guess Trump's plan to boost the budget deficits and whatever and that I guess if Trump is elected, he'll bankrupt our nation. It just sounds hyperbolic to me. I don't get that. When Trump was in office, he's actually under him. I made more money than I made under any president. The economy was actually way better under him, and so I'm just being realistic. I don't think that's possible. That the current administration has not been good for our economy. So I don't understand how anyone would even think with the numbers, the inflation that's impacting us. I don't know how anyone could even think that the Harris could have an administration that would do better than Trump. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. So it just sounds like someone that supports her and unconditionally and doesn't realize is not accepting the truth of what we're experiencing now. We're in two proxy wars. A lot of our tax money, just like the previous lady was saying. I'm sorry, I didn't see her name. Um, Guys, everything that has basically happened under this administration are the things that I expected to happen under Trump. And when I say that, I'm saying that because I'm not a Trump supporter and I'm not a Republican. I'm actually on the left. I'm to the left of Harris, but I've just seen how much has happened under them, and it's ridiculous. I didn't vote for her. I voted for Harry Hawkins from the Green Party, but I voted Democrat down ballot. And at this cycle, I can't vote at all for any Democrat because the truth is, they have basically my free speech has been compromised. I am shadow banned on YouTube. I'm shadow banned on Facebook, all because I spoke out against both Trump and Biden when they were running, just telling the facts.
Same.
So there's no, and it's real. It's not a joke. It's not like when I say that this happened to me. Not only did that happen to me, I've also seen articles that I had about Kamala before she became the nominee. All of those articles have been, not all of them, but most of them have been removed. Things that were showing her record of how she kept people in prison. She fought to keep people in prison for slave labor. When the Supreme Court fought her on it because she didn't want to let them out because they were fighting fires for like $1 an hour or something in Cali, and that's what she wanted the prisoners to remain there for. So it's just so many facts that have just everything just becomes discombobulated because people support one person. The truth is, the economy was better under Trump. Point blank, period. Nobody can say any different. So I just didn't get that. I just thought it was someone that must support her, and that's why they're saying that. But it's not factual. Trump is definitely better for our economy, and he proved that in his term.
Just a real quick
Before the
statement.
pandemic, we had the lowest unemployment rate of any modern president next to Bill Clinton. Before the pandemic, his tariffs were working against China. We had a very strong economy. A lot of things were being remade here in the United States. People felt good about investing in this country again. I don't necessarily blame him for, the pandemic. Do I think he should have spent all that money, by giving checks to people? No, I don't. But I also understand why people were telling him to do that. You could tell that even Trump was a little hesitant to do it. It took him a while for him to get on board with it. But that's nothing compared to what Biden has done. Biden's spending hasn't been pandemic related. Biden's spending has been poor mismanagement. Trump's spending was because of a pandemic. And to combat that pandemic and to pay for Operation Warp Speed, and we can all, whether or not we agree or disagree with that, um, that's a discussion for another time. Because in the moment, a lot of us were like, well, whatever gets this shit, done faster, let's do. You had a lot of people telling him, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And much like 9/11, it's really easy, or the war in Iraq, it's really easy to Monday morning quarterback the whole thing, right? It's really easy to say, well, we shouldn't have gone into Iraq. But if you look at it during that time period, and I remember it very well, people were saying, yeah, let's go into Iraq, let's destroy them, let's carpet bomb the shit out of them. We were ready. We believed that they were harboring terrorists, and we were all for that. I remember Hillary Clinton on the Senate floor. I remember numerous amounts of Democrats and Republicans on the Senate floor saying, we need to do this. Under Trump, I don't remember one time where he said, we should be bombing this person or we should be bombing that person. The only time he ever took military action was when somebody did something to us and it was retaliatory. To me, Trump is far better than Biden ever is. And Kamala, I mean, nobody's voted for Kamala. Like, she didn't even make it to the Ohio primary. She didn't even make it to the Ohio primary because Tulsi Gabbard annihilated her in a debate, who, by the way, we now have on our side, right? And I'll tell you too, Kate, I'm a Kennedy supporter. I came in as an independent, uh, going gun ho for Kennedy, and then when Kennedy backed Donald Trump, I got on board. And I started to look at the things and started to realize, man, everything that we were told about this man is a complete and utter lie. And when I started looking at the people in his administration that are currently backing Kamala Harris, I started to see something about them. They're neocons, they're globalists, they believe in America last. These are not people that I want on our side anyway. Let them go to Kamala Harris. Let her have all the Dick Cheneys of the world. Who the fuck wants Dick Cheney to back them up anyways? This man's Darth Vader. And you're telling me that all of a sudden Liz Cheney coming on board and Dick Cheney, after what the Democrats said about these two individuals, all of a sudden the tide has turned and these guys are great Americans? Bullshit. These people killed thousands of Americans for no reason. We had no reason to be in Iraq, but they created that war. It was the Cheneys who did that. And all of Bush's people, all of these Romney's people, all of McCain's people, fuck them. Like, you can have all of those people. Even Barry Goldwater, one of my favorite senators, senator from Arizona, stopped talking to John McCain because he said John McCain is full of shit and he's a warmonger and he does not understand the values and the principles of America. Yeah, some horrible things happened to him, and God bless him for what happened to him in Vietnam. I thank him solidly for the service that he did. But when he was in the Senate, he destabilized the whole region, and he pushed for us to do horrible, horrible things in other countries. So all of the McCain people, all of the Romney people, and all of the Bush people, you know what, Democrats? You can have them, because those people are scum. Miss Amorosa, why don't you pick the next speaker?
Let's hear from Liberty.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm here in California, in San Diego, trying to hold it down and keep the American spirit going, and waking people up. I popped in here just a few minutes ago, and I really appreciate everything everyone's saying. And something I like kind of been looking at when I watch different things on TV with Kamala Harris, Biden, and all that. It's kind of like the forest and the trees like principle. So I think I don't know, maybe this is just a perspective. Like, a lot of times we can see the trees and all of this, like, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that, the southern border. How could they do that? And I think about the audience. Like, what is the audience? Like, sometimes we take for granted that we're the audience, which we should be. We have every right to be as Americans. However, I feel that she's not performing for us. There's like people beyond us that she's performing for. And maybe there's like a checklist of how loyal is Kamala Harris going to be to this whatever agenda regime that's going on behind the scenes. That's not just in the United States, but around the world. And by her like snubbing Americans over in North Carolina in the hurricane areas about, oh, here's $750, just stuff like that, just so outrageous. Like you wouldn't think like a rational human being would do, but it almost seems like the whatever that the overturning of the globalist whatever genes going on, they're like, okay, they want to see who's really on their side. Like, how far is she willing to go to show her allegiance to them, not to the United States of America, not to the people, not to the republic for which we stand, but to that new world order. And I just feel that that's honestly, like, if more Americans saw that, and even people that are still maybe trying to support Democrats and, oh, she's a woman or she's black or this, that, and the other. And I'm actually, mixed racial myself, that no, this person she's not performing for us. This performance is for that whatever, I don't even know what to call that, communist or socialist Marxism regime. And the head honchos over there, like, okay, well, if she can check these boxes and she can perform and do it. And hey, is she going to fear the people of the United States of America and stand for them, or is she going to show her allegiance to them? So just stuff of like I'm in San Diego, so her letting all the illegal immigrants in, all the stuff that she's been doing. And there's a lot of people maybe vying for that position. It might be a very big, I don't know how many, a big position. There might be offering her like, uh, who knows what, like beyond our whatever control or seat on that new uh, imperialistic kingdom that is, she's going to be in charge of all this, that, and the other. And her family history comes from like they were slave owners in Jamaica. She said she's from Jamaica, but my family fled Jamaica, but my grandmother did, because they were cutting off Rastafari's dreads and cutting off their heads. That's what you can look into that stuff, but that's what her family did. They were slave owners, and that's what they believe in. So there's been a long history in that family of showing their allegiance to slavery and and it's not even necessarily, oh, it's black slavery or this, that. No, it's just they want a they want a I don't even know. It's so disgusting. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it's another Holocaust. But so I just feel, and to cut this shorter, is that maybe if we start looking at it from that perspective, like seeing instead of just all these trees that are on fire in here, but like, hey, whoa, it's not just a tree that's on fire. There is a forest here, and put ourselves like see from their eyes. Okay, what is the show really going on, and who is it for? So I don't know. That's just a perspective that maybe can help wake people up, that the show is not for us here in the United States of America. The show is for the whatever leaders on the dark side of the force. So
Liberty, can I just say
I think
something?
the biggest lie
yes,
perpetrated
please.
against the American.
Sorry, go ahead, Bryce.
I can't hear Miss Amorosa. Um, Anyways, guys, I'm gonna have to be cutting this short now. I do have to run, but I will be back. We will be back tomorrow. I invite Miss Amorosa back to be my permanent co-host. I love having you as a co-host. You're absolutely wonderful. We're gonna be talking nonstop every day from 12 to 2 about how we make America first again, and what does that mean, and what does it look like. And what I want every single person to hopefully get out of this is just a feeling that you're not alone, that you're not racist, that you're not xenophobic, that you're not anything if you decide to say America first. If you want to say that you're an isolationist, if you want to say you're a nationalist, you can come here and know that you are not going to be criticized. You're not going to be called any names. You're just going to be called a patriotic American. And that's what I hope everybody feels. I hope that you leave my spaces feeling just a little bit more pride in this country than you did when you came in. God bless every single one of you. Miss Amorosa, I hope to see you tomorrow again. Like I said, I'd love to make you my permanent co-host. God bless every single one of you. And you know what? God bless America and no place else, because we should be able to say that. We should be able to say that without fear. Good night, everybody. I mean, not good night. Good day, everybody. And